Hey, this is Earl with Carsports.com, where you get to decide and then go drive. Welcome to our Area 51 Development Lab. Today we're going to be going through some RC car shock dyno testing. Right here is our Area 51 lab, and we'll be using a different shock and stuff for this testing today, but we're going to go through the testing of shock pack. It's debated throughout the industry of the effects of having different size pistons, the different holes, different oil weights, and whether there's a phenomenon of pack or not. And so what we've got here, we've got a spreadsheet, and we're going to go through two specific tests. And the first one, we're going to use the variable of oil in the pack test. So what we're going to use is, we've got a set of 8-hole pistons here and a set of 5-hole pistons. In the first set, we're going to use as our base oil is we're going to use some Losi 35 weight as our base oil, and we're going to go through and we're going to use 8-hole 1.3 millimeter pistons, because that's kind of an industry standard that has been in the past. And so that's going to be our standard piston with 35 weight oil. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put in a 5-hole piston at the same 1.3 millimeter hole, and then we're going to we're going to take a reading, and we're going to keep changing the oil weight in the 5-hole piston until it matches where they have the same poundage in the piston. And then we're going to do it at a long stroke, same poundage at a long stroke, and then we're going to take a real fast stroke, and then we're going to plot the differences, and then we're going to observe it and see what the effects are. And this is just a practical way of looking at it and answering the question, instead of trying to do everything through formulas. Nothing compares to the actual results of physically testing. So that's really what we're doing here, is we're cutting through all the possible formulas and everything. We have a dyno here that we'll test, and we'll either come up with one of three results. We're either going to find that the more holes, you'll have more pack real small, or you'll find that fewer holes, you'll have more pack when the piston's real fast. Or we'll find out that there's virtually not a good enough indication difference between the two, and they're virtually the same. So this has been something I've wanted to do, and to be honest, I really don't know what the results are going to be. So this is going to be I've got an idea, and so but at the end of this test we'll know. So hope you enjoy it. Okay, for a little bit more information about what we're using for a basis for this test, we're going to be using a Mugen shock body here. The O-rings are brand new. I'm using a bladder that has been broken in, that has been used, because I didn't want that to change throughout the testing. But it's brand new, never been used. The shock and cap and everything. So everything's going to we're going to use the exact same shock, exact same shaft, and the exact same O-ring. So all of the testing, the only difference is going to be these pistons. These pistons were all manufactured right behind each other, the full set. So the tolerances are virtually identical on the diameter on all these, and these all have the exact same O-rings out of the same batch and everything. So I did everything I could to make the testing as accurate and as consistent, because I mean I want to know exactly what the differences are. So that's the that's kind of a breakdown of what we're using for that, and then we'll put them in the dyno over here. We'll take out this this shock here, and we'll just keep rotating the shock through and testing, and then we'll put everything in this spreadsheet, and I'll put the spreadsheet up in the video as we go through and test everything through it. So should be interesting. Should be fun. Okay, so we just finished building this one. So I'm gonna take this one. This is our 1.3 millimeter 8-hole piston, and I'm gonna go ahead and put it in our dyno here. Now this first test, we have the dyno set on 34 millimeter stroke length. So this is going to be a long, the long stroke test first. And our first setting, we're running that 34 millimeter stroke, and we're going to run on up to exactly 300 strokes a minute, and we're going to start the measure. Okay, so that right there, it has exactly 7.5 pounds positive and 7.5 pounds negative. So I'll put that in the spreadsheet, and we'll move on to the next speed. So now we're gonna do another test at 200 strokes a minute. Strokes a minute. We'll start the test. I'm going to stop. Okay, so 4.8. It's almost 5. 4.8. Okay, we're going to do one more test here. This is going to be setting at okay, that's exactly 100 strokes a minute. And so we'll go ahead and start recording. Okay. Alright, we're back. We've adjusted our dyno now that we're going to go with short strokes. I went ahead very, very small because you're wanting that real like the pack, little tiny bumps. How's it going to react on the track with a bunch of little tiny bumps? So I'm going to start out with something that's pretty severe. This is going to be 1,000 strokes a minute, so it's pretty fast. And so you can see what it looks like here. Okay, so you can see there that's like, you know, something off the scales, but that gives us a indication. All right, so right here I'm testing 500 strokes, and it looks like it's about 1.2 pounds. Okay, I've done some more testing here, and I've decided that for the short strokes, I'm going to actually start out at 300 strokes per minute. That way it matches the long stroke at 300 strokes per minute, so you can kind of have a direct comparison of the exact same stroke per minute. So I'm going to do a 300, a 500, and a 1,000. So that way you can see something that's ballistic. And then you can see kind of a normal stroke. So right here, this is, I've set it right here on 300. So this is the same stroke speed of the long stroke. Okay, after testing our 8-hole 1.3, I just wanted to point out a couple things. Still has about the same amount of rebound as it did when I put it together, so I can tell not a lot has changed in the shocks, so that's a good sign. We know that there's not really anything changed through that duration of testing. So I'll take it apart and we'll go from there. And you can see right there when I took it apart, there is actually no bubbles, none whatsoever. I don't know if there's a way for you to look in there, but that's one thing I have learned. I've learned how to build the shocks when they run with a bladder, and you're done with them. There's actually no bubbles, so you can build shocks with bladder where there not a single bubble comes back into it. It's a technique, and that's I mean, bladder shocks have a huge advantage in consistency. Only if you can make them without bubbles. So once you get bubbles in there, then emulsion shocks, in some ways, especially in 10th scale, emulsion shocks I think are better in 10th scale. But 8th scale, I like bladders in 8th scale because I've learned how to build them without getting air in it, and it's just the bigger scale, the bladder. You're able to use the bladder technology at the bigger scale, but it just doesn't scale down very well. So anyway, I'm going to replace this with the 5-hole 1.3, and then we'll try to figure out what oil we're going to use next. Okay, we're back. We're going to go put this one together real quick. Again, this is what is this one? I like these. I really like these shocks because I can sit there and look right in the cat, tell what size they are with the writing right on it. And anyway, these are 1.3 hole or 1.3 millimeter 5-hole. Okay. So here we go. All right, are you ready for the results? There was a lot of testing. I ended up going back and testing a lot more of the oils throughout all of them, and I realized I even want to go back and get more resolution and even get better results. But you can see from these charts the general idea. We had the question that we wanted to initially ask: is there such thing as shock pack? And yes, there's definitely a such thing as a shock pack. However, I realized in going through it that different people try to explain it differently from different directions. And so, really, shock pack is kind of a bad term because are you talking about